Before Europe rebuilt its future, it needed a car simple enough to trust and strong enough to survive. This is the story of the Fiat Panda. Fiat handed the challenge to one of the greatest automotive designers of the 20th century, Giorgetto Giugiaro of Italdesign. Giugiaro, whose resume already included the Volkswagen Golf first generation, the Lotus Esprit, and some of the most influential shapes ever to hit the road, was given a brief so brutally simple it bordered on poetic: create the cheapest possible four-seater car that was still safe, spacious and rugged. No style for style's sake, no unnecessary curves, no compromises in functionality. Giugiaro embraced this challenge with almost scientific clarity. He later described his creation as a shoebox on wheels, a phrase that undersells the genius beneath the metal, because what he created wasn't a shoebox, it was an architectural solution to the problems of an entire continent. The Fiat Panda, launched at the 1980 Geneva Motor Show, was pure geometry. Its body was upright, two-box, and completely honest about its purpose. Flat panels were chosen not to be stylish, but because they were cheap to stamp and easy to replace. The windscreen was nearly vertical, reducing the cost of replacement glass. The side windows were flat sheets, not curved. The tailgate opened deep and low, almost at bumper level, so even in the tightest European car parks, loading was effortless. Measuring just 3.38 meters long, the Panda was tiny on the outside, but astonishingly spacious inside. It was a little house on wheels, square, bright and airy. Under its modest exterior lay one of Fiat's greatest achievements, an engineering lesson in how to build brilliance from available parts. The platform came mostly from the Fiat 127, a proven and beloved super mini. The rear suspension used leaf springs taken straight from the older Fiat 126, a rural workhorse known for durability. Engines were carried over from across Fiat's existing lineup. At launch, the base model was powered by a 652 cubic centimetre air-cooled two-cylinder engine producing just 30 horsepower. But the car weighed only 670 kilograms, meaning even this tiny unit offered lively, spirited acceleration through the narrow streets of Rome, Turin, Milan, Lisbon, and Athens. It returned more than 50 miles per imperial gallon, making it one of the most economical cars in Europe at the time. Fiat expanded the range quickly. A 903 cubic centimetre four-cylinder model appeared, followed in 1986 by the now legendary Fire engine, fully integrated robotized engine, a revolutionary computer-assisted design that would go on to power millions of Fiats, Lancias, and Alfa Romeos for decades. The Panda became the testbed for one of the most influential small engines ever built. Inside the Panda, Giugiaro and Fiat's engineers treated the cabin not as a car interior, but as living furniture. Everything was modular, everything was movable, everything had more than one purpose. The rear bench folded, reclined, unhooked, and could be removed entirely, turning the Panda into a tiny delivery van. The front seats could lie flat, forming a lounge bed for camping. Between them sat a tubular metal frame wrapped in fabric, half seat, half hammock, that could be used as storage, a child seat, or even taken out and used as a garden chair. The dashboard was painted steel with fabric pockets. The floor was flat. The materials were not luxurious, but they were clean, wipeable, and refreshingly honest. In an age when many cars were pretending to be something they weren't, the Panda looked you in the eye and told the truth. Its price did too. In Italy, the Panda launched at 3.95 million lire, about £2,200 in 1980 Britain, or the equivalent of €9,500 today. It was cheaper than almost everything else on the market, while offering more space and flexibility. Sales exploded instantly. Over 140,000 Pandas were sold in the first full year alone. Factories in Turin and Pamplona had trouble keeping up. By 1983, the Panda wasn't just a car. It was Italy's best-selling car, a title it would hold for years. It became a symbol of the new, economically conscious Europe. And then came the version that cemented the Panda's legend, the Panda four-wheel drive model of 1983. Affordable four-wheel drive had simply never existed before in Europe. Fiat partnered with Steyr Puch of Austria, famous for their work on the Pinzgauer and Haflinger, vehicles known for climbing slopes that would terrify tractors. The Panda four-wheel drive used a robust, selectable four-wheel drive system, a raised ride height, new suspension geometry, and protective skid plates. On paper, it had only 48 horsepower. In reality, it could climb icy mountain passes where Land Rovers struggled. It became the favourite of ski instructors in the Dolomites, farmers in the Alpine valleys, and anyone who needed a winter warrior but couldn't afford a large SUV. More than 120,000 first-generation Panda four-wheel drives were built, and they remain cultural icons in Switzerland, Austria, and northern Italy. As the years passed, the Panda multiplied into an entire ecosystem. There were special editions, each capturing a moment in European life. The Italian 90 edition celebrated the World Cup with bold graphics. The Sisley four-wheel drive added touches of luxury like roof rails and tinted windows. The Panda 1000CL became a cheeky icon of affordable dating, and in 1986, well before electric cars were fashionable, Fiat introduced the Panda Elettra, a battery-powered urban runabout bought mainly by Italian energy companies and Swiss post offices. It used heavy lead-acid batteries and had a range of about 70 kilometers, but it was decades ahead of its time. By the early 1990s, the original Panda design faced new pressure. Europe was moving towards stricter safety and emissions standards. Rather than scrap their beloved creation, Fiat updated it. In 1991, the Panda received a major redesign. The shape remained, but everything from crash protection to dashboards was refreshed. Reinforced doors, better belts, collapsible steering columns, and catalytic converters all became standard. Yet the essential Panda DNA, the flat floor, the multifunction interior, the cheerful minimalism, was carefully preserved. Mechanically, the fire engines took over completely, offering better performance, better fuel economy, and famously long life. These engines, particularly the 999 cubic centimetre and 1108 cubic centimetre versions, regularly ran for more than 300,000 kilometres with little more than oil and filters. One of the most interesting versions of the 90s Panda was the Selector, fitted with one of Europe's first mass-produced CVT automatic transmissions. It was smooth, quiet, and perfect for cities at a time when most small cars still used clunky manuals. Elderly drivers loved it, driving schools used it, and in many ways it predicted the shift toward automatics that would only become dominant decades later. Throughout the 90s, the Panda should have been obsolete, yet it remained a bestseller across southern Europe. It was the first car of millions of students in Portugal, Greece, and Italy. It was the cheap runabout for small-town families, the daily companion of shopkeepers, and the faithful friend of farmers who trusted it to carry tools, crates, wood, olives, or chickens without complaint. It was almost indestructible, and culturally, it was unpretentious, so openly simple that it became charming. In a world increasingly dominated by style, status, and technology, the Panda remained innocent, democratic, and honest. But the world was changing. Euro NCAP crash tests, new emissions regulations, and the expectations of modern buyers eventually outgrew the Panda's 1980 architecture. After 23 years of continuous production, the last first-generation Panda, badged Panda Classic, rolled off the line in Tychy, Poland, in September 2003.